looking at your keyword data set, your topics that the model generates, and seeing what we could do with those associations of keywords and topics. Can we add additional links to the topics? So we talk about internal links. Can we create new content? Can we do something on a technical aspect that we are not doing? In a nutshell, the key takeaway would be the objectives. So if we are increasing the sites and providing additional architecture elements, what model are we using? The objectives of the analysis and the choice of model, the type of the keywords, so long tail, short tail. So that would be the key takeaway. It's the objectives of the analysis. Hello, my name is Konrad Szymaniak, and this is SEO in 2025, Additional Insights.
Konrad, what's your additional insight for SEO in 2025?
My additional insight for SEO 2025 is keyword to topic modeling using various unsupervised and supervised machine learning models.
Superb. Okay, so a lot to unpack there as well. Shall we start at the beginning there? So you started off with keyword to topic modeling. So what does that mean in practice?
So what it means is your keyword data sets being mapped out and clustered in a way that machines and AI agents would understand. So if we are talking about a supervised machine learning approach like SBERT or just fuzzy matching, or unsupervised, we could have bad topics. So what I mean by that is, for example, in bad topic, a model in machine learning, you can have a keyword data set and cluster this keyword data sets into different topics. And this way, your keyword data sets would be mapped out in a way that a typical human would find hard to do. So it's essentially training your keyword data set further. So if we have a enterprise website, we would take a product URLs and a category URL and see, okay, which of those products and categories or collections, which keywords they rank for. And we would try to identify semantic clusters in that keyword data set. That would be like a general approach. And, with keyword to topic modeling, it's important to consider the objectives of the analysis. So if we are looking at just pure keyword data set, a model like bad topic would identify the topics from that keyword data set. However, if you already have your topics, so your collections, and you are not looking to create new categories, you'd use another model. So that's like a basic overview of this insight.
So how much human involvement does there has to be? For instance, if you leave it all to the machines, surely the selection of topics to accompany keyword phrases isn't necessarily going to be as accurate or as relevant for that particular marketplace or business as a human might select. Or am I not up to speed with what machines can do?
To give you an example, what we would do in-house is scrape the keywords that a URL or a similar bunch of URLs would rank for. What we then do is apply a keyword to topic modeling, or you could phrase it to topic mapping model like bad topic. And we usually do this with longer queries. So what I mean by longer queries is when you have long tail keywords. So, and keywords are queries, what I'm referring to is the same thing. So when we look at queries that users type into Google, those specific ones, so it would be 5 or 4 or more words, we would take these keywords and we would put it into a CSV file. Then we would upload it into our script, which is a model. And it basically gives us clusters or topics relevant to the website, to what the keywords are about. So to give you a practice, if you have Nike football shoes category, right? A Nike football shoes category would have URLs like Astro, grass, colors, so blue, white. So you have all of these URLs that have essentially filters on them. And you would take those queries and try to export the keywords that each URL would rank for. And we would put it into a CSV file. Then we would put it into our model. And this model essentially generates the semantic topics that is associated on that keyword dataset. How is this useful? We are essentially looking at which keywords belong to which topic cluster. So it basically gives us a summary of like the representative keywords. So in a plain English, this means that if there is a keyword that we are either not considering for a URL, we could insert it into a description or a meta title if it's a high search volume keyword. So again, this is like a basic top level overview, essentially mapping keywords to its semantic clusters.
And I guess it sounds like selecting the correct URLs to begin with is key. So how do you go about doing that? Is this something you can get in Google Search Console?
I mean, so if we're talking about first-party data, so Google Search Console, we can export clicks, impressions in different keywords. If we're talking about third-party data, we can use a third-party tool to do that as well, just to plug in the URL and export the keywords. You know, it depends on the URL. So if you're looking at one URL and let's say like just a few days, if it's important URLs, we will just use an API to get more queries, because Google Search Console is limited. It gives you 30% of the data.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about other software that you use in order to do this?
I mean, so, you know, like if we're talking about pure keywords data, we'll look at SEMrush, simply because SEMrush for us works on the keyword basis. So we would use SEMrush to get the keywords and analytically analyze them in our topic model, but also we would use a tool like Pi Data Metrics, which will then be able to give additional metrics on top of it. So why are we doing it? So if it's a particular tracking solution we're looking at. So if we are looking at position tracking, and let's say the objective is to identify new topics, we would then use SEMrush to scrape the data and find the keywords. Then we would identify the clusters, the topics from this initial keyword data set using a module like bed topic. We would then plug in these topics and try to create new URLs or new topics based on that. Using a tool like Pi Data Metrics, be able to see what positions are tracked over time, and if there is a drop off or improvement in organic search traffic based on our analysis and input.
And so what tool do you use to map the intended topics to the keywords that you identify?
Oh, so this is a Python script in Google Colab. So it's not a publicly accessible tool, but if you do good Google search, lots of SEO experts provide the initial model. And what we do in-house, we train it so it works for each client. Essentially, what I mean by training is have a sample of the data and add additional functions or libraries to the initial script. So essentially tailoring the script for our use case.
And at what stage will you attempt to prioritize what has to be done? What URLs to focus on initially?
I mean, so when we look at prioritization, we always try to go back to the initial objectives. So if it is an important category like football boots, Nike football boots, then we would, like try to prioritize by the objective, the search volume, and different SEO metrics and the business outcomes. So if we focus on a category that is in demand, and our forecast tells us that if we improve this category, we will be able to move the needle and essentially get more traffic and get more orders. We will prioritize those. So if we're looking at, let's say, Reebok trainers over Nike football boots, we would prioritize based on search volume, based on the number of historical orders and the financial figures. Essentially, we are prioritizing based on the initial objective and what the business and the higher ups care about.
It was interesting that you used get more traffic and get more orders as the KPIs that you were focusing in on. So it's easy, obviously, to make some kind of educated guess in terms of the likely traffic that you would get from an increase in rankings. But increase in orders is trickier. I mean, would you use an assumed click-through rate from someone visiting your site to making a purchase there? Or would you attempt to get more granular and look at the relevance of the keyword phrase and assume a likely purchase rate based upon the type of keyword phrase that you're targeting?
Yeah, so what you're referring to is third-party data. So when we engage with a client, we look at their CRM. In an enterprise environment, you have a CRM team and conversion team, SEO team, paid search team, social team. So we essentially collaborating directly in this case with the CRM team who has this first party data. So it's just easier than the anticipation aspect. If it's a smaller client, we would look at, if it's a lack of data, we would look at anticipated positions or the click-through rate based on that position to see like if there's an conversion rate, we'll be able to anticipate and forecast the outcomes that the business cares about. And, like in different client, different scenario, the approach is essentially varied. So large enterprise CRM teams, they provide the data and we can work with that and combine it. Smaller clients will look at forecasting methodologies using both historical first-party data and Search Console analytics, but also third-party data like SEMrush and different third-party tools. So it's difficult to tell, but at the end of the day, it's essentially about identifying, using different decision trees, what we could rank for and when. So to elaborate on that, if we're looking at smaller client, we would try to get the keywords and the topics in the right order association. We would then look at, for example, a forecasting method. So if, for example, a keyword difficulty is low, but the search volume is high, so it's based on different decision trees. Based on these different decisions, we would say, okay, this is the timeline we'll be able to achieve this by, and then looking at the rankings and now with Google AIO's dimensions to see, okay, sometimes like the clicks is one of the KPIs, but at times we know that the click-through rate has been dropped massively in the SEO industry. So a mention is in the AIO, it's important as well. So yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you made me think of lots of follow-up questions, including the generation of content from the topics that you identify as well and the trends that you're seeing from that. But to be honest with you, that's going to be a whole other conversation, and perhaps we can have that conversation in a future episode.
100%.
Sounds good. Okay, so Konrad, what's the key takeaway from the tip you shared today?
Well, key takeaway is looking at your keyword data set, your topics that the model generates, and seeing what we could do with those associations of keywords and topics. Can we add additional links to the topics? So we talk about internal links. Can we create new content? Can we do something on a technical aspect that we are not doing? In a nutshell, the key takeaway would be the objectives. So if we are increasing the size and providing additional architecture elements, what model are we using? The objectives of the analysis and the choice of model, the type of the keywords, so long tail, short tail. So that would be the key takeaway. It's the objectives of the analysis.
Konrad Szymaniak is Managing Enterprise SEO Consultant at Szymaniak Digital, and you can find him over at szymaniakdigital.co.uk. Konrad, thanks so much for adding your additional insight to SEO in 2025.
Thank you so much for having me.
I've been your host, David Bain, and you've been listening to SEO in 2025 Additional Insights, a Majestic series that complements the original podcast, video series, and book. Find out more at SEOin2025.com.